Hey everyone, Andrikats here and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll walk you through the new mech dungeon which arrived with 10.15 called the Dawn of the Infinite. Even though it is said that this dungeon is quite challenging, with complex mechanics require good coordination amongst players, this still shouldn't scare you. As long as you understand the fights and follow the mechanics, it should be doable, and it brings many good rewards. I will basically go over each boss fight and share a few tips down the line. So without further ado, let's jump right in. First of all, the entrance is located at the temporal conflux near the bronze oathstone, and once you enter, you need to talk with the nozdormu to start the dungeon. The first boss you'll be going up against is Chronikar, which is a pretty straightforward fight with an enraged phase upon reaching maximum energy. The tank ability you need to care is Chrono-Shear. This deals a good amount of physical damage, knocks you away, and applies an absorb shield which needs to be healed ASAP. The reason is that Chrono-Shear will also apply a debuff on the tank, which causes them to take 200% more damage. So healer needs to heal through the absorb shield to be able to dispel the debuff. As long as the shield still exists, you can't dispel it. As a tank, you should always use any mitigation you have before each Chrono-Shear. Chronikar stops the ground and manifests withering sun pools under marked players. If you get marked, try to place the pool near the end of the room for better space management. As a DPS or even a healer, you should consider pre-positioning yourself at the end of the room so you don't have to move as much. And yes, that goes without saying, avoid staying inside the pools as they'll do damage, so no need to stress out your healer even more. Once the boss reaches 100 energy, she propels into the air and then she crashes down on a player's location. Anyone caught in a circle will get damage, so it's best to avoid it. The explosion will create ion fragments, dodge those, and then soak the ion residues left behind. If any residue is left without soaking, it will transform into residue blast, and that's a huge group-wide damage, which might lead to a wipe. So soak. That's all about the first boss. Manifested Timeways is the second boss of the dungeon, and throughout the whole fight the surrounding area of the boss will rotate between dark and light areas, kind of like a 4-piece pizza. The 2 light pizza slices are the accelerating time, where you take damage every 1 second and move faster. The other 2 darker areas are the decaying time, where time moves slower and you'll be taking damage every 3 seconds, and on top of that you'll take 20% less damage. Regardless of which one you stay in, you will take damage, but if you have the mobility to maintain your rotation while moving, you will prefer to stay within the decaying time. If you are a slow class or you just pop up your CDs and nothing major is happening, ignore them and just execute your rotation. One particular ability which can be made easier through utilizing the pizza slices is the Chrono Faded debuff. This will be applied on 2 random players for 8 seconds. It deals ticking damage on the player, but as soon as it's removed, it will trigger Chrono Fade, a big expanding circle that deals damage as it passes through the players. One way to do it is to dispel one debuff and let the other run its course, but you have to be mindful of which area you want it to expire inside. The player who has the debuff will take significantly less damage when he stays in the decaying time, but you don't want it to go off in there, as the follow-up circle will expand very slowly and everyone will take more damage than he has to. You want it to get it over with as quickly as possible, thus having the circle spawn on the light areas. Basically, if you get targeted with Chrono Phase, simply coordinate with your healer. If he's going to dispel it, move quickly to the light area, or else stay in the dark areas and before it expires move to the light. Boss will also cast Fragments of Time, small orbs that deal damage when you come in contact with them. Simply avoid them. These orbs will move differently depending on which pizza slice they are. It's much easier to avoid them once they are in the darker areas. Just a few things to be mindful if you are tanking this boss. Unwind is a frontal cone attack on you which happens twice. If you stay in the decaying time, the second surge will be much slower, making it easier to avoid. Try to always be on the opposite side of the group and always make sure to stay in melee range, because you don't want to trigger Radiant, an arcane DPS buff which stacks. Blight of Galakrond is the third boss of this mega dungeon, and it's quite an interesting fight with 3 phases. At first, you'll start attacking the Blight itself up until 80%, then he'll take control of Azon up until 50%, and after that the boss will transition into the final phase 3, where you'll fight against Loskeleth and Dazak. In each phase, he'll gain new abilities. During phase 1, boss will leave green puddles each time it moves. You need to be aware of the boss position and do not stand in the pools at all costs. With corrosive infusion, boss applies a corrosion debuff on a player. This is one of the core mechanics of the boss, and if you understand this, then everything falls into place. Corrosion will deal instant damage on the player and then apply a dot, lasting for 12 seconds. If it expires on that player, they'll get mind control for the whopping amount of 20 seconds. Here's how you can avoid that scenario. Corrosion can be transferred to a new player via conduct, which makes the timer reset. So make sure to always give it to another player before it expires on you. On top of that, there's one additional way to completely get rid of it, and that's by standing in front of the Blight Reclamation frontal. You can't simply walk over it though, as it does heavy damage and pulls you in. Best way to do it is to transfer it to the tank so he can clear it. Sometimes you might need to toss it to another player before transferring it to the tank, as the frontal might be coming at a later stage. There is one way to cheese it though. Just assign 2 or 3 players and keep trading the debuff at around 5 seconds remaining. At the end of each phase, the debuff will go away anyways. As a healer, you should always spot healing the target with the corrosion, as he will take lots of damage. Phase 2 starts at 8%, while Blight will take over Azon, where you still have to deal with corrosion, but this time there is one additional ability called the Necrotic Winds. Avoid getting hit by the tornadoes and use your defensive cooldowns. This is one of the hardest points of the fight, so pop up your healing cooldowns here as well. DPS should also pop up your cities too, so you can get it done quickly. Phase 3 starts at 50%, while Blight transfers into Laws and Dance, and now you will have to still deal with the corrosion debuff and 3 more abilities. The 2 dragons will share a health pool, so stack them together for a better cleave. As a tank, you only have to taunt and care about Laws, as he is the one that melees you. Laws will cast Necrotic Frost, immobilizing a player, reducing their haste and inflicting damage until the Necrofrost is destroyed. So that should be your top priority when it's up, kill it ASAP. Daz will cast Fire Breath, avoid that at all costs, and she will also cast Noxious Injection, doing heavy AoE damage, so be sure to top up players quickly. Iridikron is the 4th boss of the Mega Dungeon, and in this fight your good friend Chromie will help you out, so you have to watch her back. Literally, do not let her die, as it will be a wipe. You can heal her throughout the fight, especially when she seeks for aid. Each successful melee attack on the tank will apply Crushing Onslaught, lasting 3 seconds and causing them to take 50% more damage. This will keep stacking, so do your best to reset them as often as you can. If you get targeted by Extinction Blast and Big Circle with a yellow arrow, you need to walk under Chromie's bubble to prevent you from dying. Everyone else should move away from you. Boss will blast Chromie with rocks during the Stonecracker barrage. You need to intercept them to help Chromie out. Tank must soul soak the smaller circle, while the other should help soak the bigger circle. Pop up your defensive cooldowns to take less damage from the follow-up Stone Track, where everyone at the blast zones will get damage for 15 seconds. Iridikron will shield himself up with Earth Surge and start doing heavy group-wide damage while emitting Earth Spikes that leave puddles behind. At this stage, hold mini cooldowns to break down the shield while keep avoiding the spikes and ground dirt. The quicker you break the shield, the less damage your whole party will take. Once in a while, boss will cast Pulverizing Escalation, a big frontal attack and a massive circle coming out of his hitbox. You should avoid both of them. While running away, try to stay close to your teammates, loosely spread though, because on the end you will spawn adds. Tank should take aggro on this immediately and make sure to kick their Stone Ball cast, as it will leave a nasty bleed dot and kill them ASAP. Throughout the fight, Iridikron will steadily build energy, and once he reaches 100 he will start casting Cataclysmic Obliteration. If he manages to finish the cast, it's a sure wipe. During this phase, it is extremely important to stack inside Chromie's bubble, as she will give you a great DPS boost. Upon taking damage, Iridikron will lose energy, and your goal is to take his energy down to 0 so he can end the cast. The fight will end at 85% health. Moving on to the 4th encounter, we have Tyr. The tank ability is Titanic Blow, which deals huge amounts of damage and knocks you out. Yes, even out of the platform if you are being reckless. This ability, as the other ones coming up, will spawn golden puddles. Avoid them at all times. Everyone should help soak the Dividing Strike on the boss, and if it fails to hit at least 2 players, the boss will gain Titanic Empowerment, a 33 increased damage buff for the rest of the fight, and this effect stacks. So have always at least 2 people soak, but it's preferable for all to help to evenly split the damage. Tyr will face a random player and cast Infinite Annihilation, a frontal cone attack which you should avoid at all costs. Boss will apply 2 sparks of Tyr on 2 players. These, once removed either from Dispel or Expiration, will deal group-wise splash damage. You can quickly dispel one of them, heal up the group, and then let the other one naturally expire, or dispel it once the group is healthy. When Tyr's energy reaches 0, he will cast Siphon Oathstone while applying a Radiant Shield to him. At this stage, you can collect much of Temporal Essence to gain a stack of Stolen Time. This increases your haste and movement speed by 10% for 30 seconds, and it stacks up to 5 times. The most important thing though is that if any motes reach the Oathstone, his shield will grow and at the same time will deal heavy AoE damage. So hack the Oathstone and don't let any orbs pass. Let the tanks soak the ones coming out from the ground puddles, and in general you want the area around the Oathstone to be as clean as possible to help you soak the orbs. The next 2 bosses can be done in whatever order you want. I'll go ahead and start with Morchie. She will do a frontal attack called Sunblast, so a tank should always face her away from the group. Morchie will cast time traps. You should avoid going through them as you'll trigger follow-up effects called Time Stasis and Temporal Backlash. These traps will come handy for the following ability called Familiar Faces, where she'll spawn copies of the players that will fixate on them. You'll have to kite the fixates through the traps, this way they will be stunned until Morchie frees them up again. You can pre-position yourself close to a time trap when she's casting Familiar Faces to eliminate movement. As I mentioned, every time a fixated or a player goes over a time trap, it will trigger a group-wide damage. Make sure to top everyone when that happens, and use your defensives to survive the AoE damage. Keep in mind that these fixates can be CC, especially when there are not enough traps for anyone, so stun them until she can spawn more traps. If any unfortunate player gets caught in a time trap, you can dispel it. The most important ability, which can easily wipe you though, is the More Problems. She will spawn fake Morchies in a circle around the room, and your goal is to find the real one. The fake ones will have either a hat or any head accessory, while the real one will show up her pretty blue-green hair. Once you spot the real one, quickly go behind her or to the side to dodge the upcoming Dragon Breath. If you get hit by the breath, you get a ton of damage, and then on top of that she'll apply a nasty dot on you called Sun Buffeted. You might be able to heal through it, but you'll annoy your healer, so just stay alert during this transition and position yourself accordingly. And that's as far as Morchie goes. Timeways Battlefield features a slight difference between Horde and Alliance players. If you are Alliance, you'll go up against Grommash Hellscream, and if you are Horde, you'll find Anduin Lothar. Although some of the boss's spells and ads have different names, they will do pretty much the same things. I'll just go ahead and explain the fact with Lothar, but it's exactly the same with Grommash. I'll just put the names on the screen so it's easier for you. The tank ability to watch out here is Mortal Strikes, where he will swing twice, doing a good chunk of physical damage, so pop up your defensives here. The boss will target a player and jump on him and start doing Blaze Storm, just simply run away from that. Another ability to dodge is the Shockwave, a triple cone attack. During the whole fight, Anduin will summon 3 different types of ads, and let's take a look on what they do exactly. A Footman who just melees doesn't do anything major, an Archer who applies a nasty bleed dot called Sordid Arrow, and a Conjurer who will cast Blizzard. You just need to simply move away from it. The Conjurer will also cast Fireball on a player, which can be dispelled. Basically, the way to go at it is to tank on top of the Archer and focus on the boss while cleaving down the ads, with priority being the Archer, then the Conjurer, and lastly the Footman. When he is casting for the Alliance, he will resummon the 3 ads once again, make sure to cleave them down, and that's pretty much it. As a healer, you should pay attention to Battle Cry. It will do a group-wide damage, so make sure to top up everyone during that. And that's it! Chrono-Lord Deios is the last boss encounter in Dawn of the Infinite, and it's a 2-phase boss fight. During stage 1, you'll have to deal with infinite Kibarats, and downing the boss under 20% will cause the stage 2 to begin. As a tank, you should always aim the Temporal Breath frontal away from your teammates. Throughout the whole fight, boss will cast Infinity Orb, spawning multiple orbs falling from the sky. Once they reach the ground, they'll trigger a follow-up effect called Infinity Nova. This deals AoE damage and causes player to get 300% more damage from the next Infinity Nova for 4 seconds. These orbs will fall slower when players stand underneath them. This is basically the only ability that can wipe you if 2 orbs go off at the same time, so just have one person ready to soak one of the falling orbs, wait for the debuff to go away and let the second one safely explode. During phase 1, Deios summons keeper ads, take the boss to the ad, and everyone must swap and nuke down each keeper before they're able to bring reinforcements through the portal. The ad will be always priority over the boss, as upon dying he will trigger Collapsing Rift, damaging the boss in the process. 2 things to keep in mind here. First, each keeper will keep on casting Infinite Blast, which can be kicked, and Chronal Burn that should be dispelled immediately. Boss will summon 4 keepers in total, one by one, and then 2 at the same time. Once the final keeper is killed, phase 2 will begin at around 20%. In this stage, you will still have to deal with Infinity Orbs and Temporal Breath. Make sure you avoid the Golden Swirlies coming from the Infinite Corruption. They will also leave a Golden Paddle behind, don't stand in them. When the boss reaches 8%, nozdormu will be freed, granting you extra powers, and that's how you can kill Chrono-Lord Deios. And that's pretty much it. That's the 8 bosses of the Dawn of the Infinite. Thank you so much for sticking around, and if you found this video helpful, drop a like. If you want to support my channel, please take a moment to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You can also find me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/AndreCatsGames, where I'm mostly streaming World of Warcraft. Good luck with whatever you're doing, and I will see you all on the next one. Bye!